Hello everyone, welcome to Get Ready and Get Weird with Marcella. I am Marcella. I have already gotten ready and I've stayed weird my entire life, so I'm one step ahead of you. Just kidding, I'm not. It's not a competition. Anyway, moving on. I'm glad you're here because we're about to get weird. We're talking about one of my very favorite animals ever in the world today. It's a teeny tiny little crustacean named the barnacle. So, pretty excited about it if you can't tell by the huge smile on my face. I love barnacles. My mom reminded me that I haven't talked about barnacles on my channel yet, and it's the 11th video, so here we are, finally, talking about barnacles. I used the excuse that my messy bun can maybe look like the little feet shooting out of barnacles when it's getting food out of its shell. But honestly, it's my channel, so if I just want to wear a messy bun instead of doing a hairstyle, I can, and I did. So we don't have to pretend. It's just a messy bun because that's what my hair looks like today. My makeup look is fairly neutral because barnacles are mostly, honestly, boring neutral colors. But hey, I did something. I also did a sharp wing because barnacles are sharp. I am so glad that you're here. Today we are going to cover what a barnacle is, where they live, what they eat. We talk about some of their anatomy. We also mention their predators, and I share a couple fun facts. There's not too many fun facts because every fact about barnacles is so fun. So the whole episode today is fun facts. I do want to apologize for my absence last week. I was taking a quick Labor Day vacation. I drove to Kansas to visit my family and friends there. That's where I'm from. I do appreciate your patience with me while I did not post a video last week. I do have 10 other videos on this channel though, so if you are looking for more content, I am proud that I've created 10 videos, now 11. So there should be a video for you somewhere on my channel that hopefully you haven't seen yet, or maybe hopefully you have seen. Hopefully you're caught up. I don't know if there's anybody out there who's caught up. Without further ado, I am so happy to be talking to you today about barnacles. So let's jump into this Get Ready and Get Weird about barnacles. Hello everyone, I am here with a messy bun and a clean face to talk to you all about barnacles. I was talking to someone, maybe my mom, about the fact that I haven't covered barnacles yet, and it's kind of surprising because I actually, if you know me in person, mention barnacles often. It's kind of one of my go-to like candy-coated curse words. So instead of saying a bad word, I might say, oh, barnacles. So I also got that habit from watching too much SpongeBob. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Barnacles!
SpongeBob!
Sorry about the foul language, Mr. Krabs.
That sort of thing. But I was talking to my mom about the fact that I haven't covered barnacles yet. And I was explaining to her that they are crustaceans. They're related to shrimp and lobsters. What? It surprises me because they just stay in one spot, stuck to a flat surface, and they're related to crabs, lobsters, shrimps, crustaceans. I would have thought they were closer related to rocks. No, I wouldn't have. I'm smarter than that. But for whatever reason, it does surprise me, and it does sometimes surprise other people when I tell them that barnacles are crustaceans. Gotta cover that little pimple up there. So when a barnacle is a baby or a larva in their larval state, barnacles actually look like little tiny shrimp. They float around, swim around. I'll give them credit where credit's due. At this point in their life, they are moving and swimming. And while they swim, they are looking for a perfect, flat surface, like a rock or a ship or a big humongous whale, a manatee, a buoy, pretty much any, turtles, they stick to anything big and flat. And while they're in this larval state, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for somewhere to stick their heads to and live for the rest of their lives. Once this little larval barnacle finds the spot it wants to stick to, and it chooses this by, it likes active spots. So it likes volcanic areas in the ocean. It likes where there's a lot of exchange of water and gas and minerals, or they like intertidal areas where the tides go up and down, because that is how they're able to get their food. They are filter feeders, so because they are not moving, they need water movement to allow food to float by and they can catch it in their little feet. So that's what those little shrimps are looking for, is a spot to stick their heads to the rocks and live forever. Can you imagine having to figure out your freaking forever home when you're a larval state? I can't. That would suck. Thank goodness my legs are not barnacle legs. Instead, I have a human brain and human legs and a human body, so I don't have to be stuck to a rock. Although I wouldn't mind being stuck to like a turtle or a whale. If I was a larval barnacle, I would choose to be stuck to a humongous whale. That would be awesome. I used to joke with a former boss. Hi, Reese. Reese is the director of the Sternberg Museum of Natural History in Hays, Kansas. I used to work there doing PR and marketing. Sorry to every other boss I've ever had. Best job ever. So when I used to work for him, we would look at cool animals all the time. So we would just Google cool animals, because Reese is a paleontologist and he knows a ton of stuff about dead animals and alive animals. We would look up animals, and one day we looked up barnacles, and I was just telling him how I really wouldn't mind being a barnacle, because you could just stay in your shell, just protected and safe, and just reach your hands out for food. And really, that's all you need. Shelter and food. Back to larval barnacles. Larval barnacles will look for a suitable spot. Once they find a spot that they want to be their forever home, they get, that little sign that you get when you buy your first home, or when you buy your home and it says sold. It's shaped like a key and it says, my first home. Works with a realtor, and it sticks to this surface. And something that I found intriguing while researching these crustaceans is that they're not sticking their butt to the solid surface. They're actually sticking their heads. So they're doing a handstand for their whole life. Their head is stuck to a rock for their whole life. So anyway, once it finds its little spot it wants to live, which again, huge decision for a larval barnacle to make. Where do you want to live for the rest of your life? I am 27 years old and I don't even know the answer to that question, so maybe they should help each other out. So it finds a spot. It sticks its head to the spot, and out of its antenna, some of the strongest glue, some of the strongest sticky substance found in nature. Shooting is a little dramatic. It doesn't shoot out. That would be amazing. It'd be like a spider barnacle shooting out sticky stuff. We're not going there. We can make a comic book about that later. Anyway, the barnacle finds the spot, sticks its head to the spot, and out of its antenna, some little glue substance oozes out of it, and it sticks it there forever. Its shell can stick to that same spot for years after the barnacle dies. That's how sticky it is. It's so sticky that dentists and scientists are looking at it to try to find out how it's so sticky. Humans are trying to get in on that sticky stuff, that sticky icky. No, just glue, it's glue. Once that barnacle is stuck, it is now ready to grow from a larval barnacle, to a full-grown crustacean nation barnacle. Most barnacles don't get bigger than about 2 inches, but they live in little clusters. So usually they stick to spots close to other barnacles, which is very handy and actually imperative to the life of a barnacle and the actual life of barnacles in nature altogether, because in order to reproduce, since they don't move at all, they have to be close to each other. So they're scooched right up to each other. Speaking of reproducing, all barnacles are hermaphrodites, so they have both female and male sexual organs, and that they have to have each other next to each other, so they do reproduce sexually, not asexually. But depending on how things go that year for that barnacle, one year they might be acting as the female and one year they might be acting as the male. Very efficient. Once the larval barnacle sticks itself to this surface, let's say it chose a rock. How boring. They could have chose a whale and they chose a rock. I try not to judge other individuals' decisions, but can you imagine being a barnacle that chose a rock and your friends just float by on a freaking turtle or something? You made the wrong choice, bud. Little buddy. Sorry. So, side note, I'm doing neutral colors because barnacles are mostly like whites, creams, browns. They're not really brightly colored for the most part. That's why I'm sticking with very neutral colors. I don't think I even finished my last thought. Once the barnacle finds a spot, it is then ready after it's stuck to its spot. I'm not gonna roast the barnacle for choosing a rock anymore because again, it's only a larva when it chooses. That's like trying to tell an 18-year-old child to choose a major and decide what it wants to do for the rest of its life. Anyway, we're not gonna roast a barnacle for choosing its place to live. Once it's stuck to the spot that it's gonna live, that is when it starts to build its home or its shell or its exoskeleton around it. That's what you see. You see the little cones on ships, on buoys, on rocks, on whales, on turtles, wherever you've seen a barnacle before. If you've ever seen a barnacle before, that cone-like shape that you see is the shell. That's the barnacle's home. I mentioned that barnacles like places with a lot of activity. And I mentioned that they like to stick to places with a lot of activity because that is how they get their food. They're stuck in one spot and they reach their little feet out because they're stuck on their head, remember? So they're sticking their feet out of their shell, and that is how they collect their food. And they are filter feeders, so they just grab whatever they can as it floats by. That is also why these little creatures like boats and whales and turtles and all those moving animals or moving options, because those moving places that they can stick to give them more opportunities. Like if a whale floats them around all day because it's swimming around looking for its own food, the barnacles stuck on that whale have all these options of things to grab out of the ocean. They are omnivores, so really they'll eat whatever they float by. So they are not picky. They'll eat shrimps, they'll eat planktons, they'll eat little pieces of algae. So really whatever floats their barnacle or their boat. They might be stuck on a boat. Freaking barnacles.
Yes, I'll come back to you, then I'll ask what have we done under the sun.
Before I really looked into barnacles and what they provide to their environments and the ecosystems that they live in, I always just heard of them as being a pest and something that you want to scrape off of your boat if you get a barnacle on your boat. But they're not only pests, and we'll talk about what they do contribute. Hey everybody, it's Marcella from the future. I'm here with Bozzy. She's working on her bone. I'm working on editing. And while I was editing, I realized I didn't tell you all what barnacles contribute to their environments, to their ecosystems. As filter feeders, barnacles are helping to clean the ocean. They help to keep the waters that they live in clean. They get the small debris out, small pieces of algae, anything like that, just to help keep their environments clean. Something that we do that does impact barnacles is our uses of microplastics. If those get into the ocean, barnacles will end up eating them and ingesting them just because that's how they feed. They filter feed. So that is harmful to them as an organism and as a species. So this is just a reminder that your use of plastic directly impacts the organisms that we share our planet with. All right, I'll turn it back over to past Marcella. She'll finish telling you about barnacles. First, I want to say the reason that people want to get them off their boats is valid. They are just kind of stuck to your boat. But I will note, whales and turtles and crabs that they're stuck to aren't bothered by having barnacles on them. They don't cause any harm to the animal. It's not necessarily a symbiotic relationship because the animal that they're stuck to, say the whale or the turtle, is not gaining anything from having a barnacle stuck to its back, but the barnacle is able to eat food. So that's not technically a symbiotic relationship, but the barnacle is not harming the animal. Some barnacles can be parasitic. There's one specific species that I read about that can be parasitic, but most barnacles are really just hitching along for a ride. They are not impacting the animal whatsoever. I do understand why people want to get barnacles off of their boats though, because large colonies of barnacles can actually weigh a ship down and make it less aquadynamic. Is that a word? Basically, it causes the ship to drag and burn more fuel. So not necessarily a good thing. The US Navy, sorry, I can't do this and talk at the same time. The US Navy estimates that barnacles increase the drag of their ships by 60%, which causes a 40% increase in fuel usage. So barnacles can be a bit of a nuisance. Understandable that people would like to get them off of their boats. I've gone overboard with my wings. Barnacle overboard! Jeez Louise, one of these is really reaching for the stars. All right, that's what we're doing. That is what we're doing with our wings today. Flying all the way away. We're really taking flight today. This would have been a good look for a bird video, but instead we're talking about barnacles, which are sharp. So we can just say that these eyeliner lines are to cut people like barnacle shells cut people. That's what we're going with today, everybody. Just go with it. All right, I have mentioned that barnacles grab their food by sticking their feet out of their shell, which is true. I haven't lied yet to you that I know of. Maybe I have, I don't know. But I don't know I have, so does that even count as a lie? I mentioned also that when barnacles stick to the surface, they're sticking head first. They're oozing glue out of their antenna to stick their heads to the surface. So an interesting thing about barnacles is that as a crustacean, their legs, which they have because they're crustaceans, have actually evolved to be their gills of sort. They are feather-like appendages that are technically their feet, their legs, and those appendages stick out of their shells when they are underwater and it's safe, and they grab food as it floats by. They also exchange oxygen from the water in order for the barnacle to breathe. So that's cool. Bet your feet can't do that. Neither can mine, but barnacles can. These legs, these adapted legs, are actually called cirri, C-I-R-R-I, and that is what the feathery-like appendages that were at one point legs are now called. So they'll stick out of an opening on the shell to grab food and comb the water for microscopic organisms for the barnacle to eat. If they sense a potential threat, or if the water level goes too low and they are now not underwater, the barnacle will quickly pull its cirri, its feathery legs, back into its shell and close the door. I mean, I'm sure that's not the anatomically correct name, door, but it does have parts of its shell. It has 6 parts of its shell that create the cone shape around it, and then has 4 more parts of its shell that open and close for the legs to go in and out. So closes the hatch. Land ho, close the hatch, because they don't want to be dried out. And the legs evolved to be these feather-like appendages to gather food because there was no need for the barnacle to walk like its other crustacean relatives, because it has this cement-like glue that it just sticks to a rock. So it adapted a different use for the legs that other crustaceans are using to walk around, and those little appendages are now used by barnacle to gather food and also exchange gases to breathe. All right, we are almost finished with the face, and all that I have left to share with you are fun facts. So, we're right on time. The first fun fact that I have hinted at is that barnacles do not have a heart and they do not have lungs. And I say I've hinted at this because I mentioned that their feet have been adapted to be like gills. Their legs have been adapted to be used as gills as well as to gather their food, and that's true. They exchange gas through these gill, feet, legs, feathery, cirri, whatever you want to call them, but they exchange the gas through them in order to breathe. Another interesting body modification that they have is that they have a muscle that they use to open and close the door, the 4 pieces of their shell on the top. Technically, what's weird about barnacles is that their top, what we see on the top of their barnacle body, of their shell, the little cone, what we see on the top of that is actually the bottom of the barnacle. That's their feet. Their head is stuck. Sorry, I'm just never gonna get over that. The fact that they are upside down, stuck upside down for their whole lifetime. So weird. Anyway, they have a specialized muscle that moves, that opens and closes that hatch of sorts, that door. And last but not least, I always find it interesting to talk about who may be the predators to the organism that I'm talking about. And so I did look up who could eat barnacles, because I was thinking, you know, their shell might be very protective. But everything has a predator. Everything falls in the food chain somewhere. So the barnacle has predators. Those predators include worms, snails, sea stars, so starfish, some other fish, not just starfish, and also birds, shorebirds, or birds that live on the seashore. And that doesn't surprise me, because I can just picture birds using their pokey beaks to get into the pokey shells and eat the meat off of a barnacle, considering they are technically a crustacean. It'd be like cracking open a crab leg and eating that, so I shouldn't be surprised. But for whatever reason, I just assumed that barnacles did not have predators, and I was wrong. So now you know. Anyway, thank you so much for sitting with me while I got to talk to you about barnacles. Barnacles are one of my very favorite animals. I use the word barnacles as a candy-coated cuss word. Instead of saying a bad word, I will say, oh, barnacles, or to express anger or annoyance, I will say barnacles. And so I'm honestly surprised that it took this long. It took 11 videos. I didn't talk about barnacles until I had done 11 videos. But here we are. Special number 11. Saved the best for number 11. Thank you, SpongeBob, for putting the word barnacles into my normal vocabulary. And also thank you to my mom for reminding me to talk about barnacles as more than just a candy-coated cuss word, because it's not. Thank you everyone for clicking to watch this video. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope to see you next time. And until then, be sure to like, subscribe, and share my videos with your family and friends who you think would find this interesting. And until next time, don't forget to stay weird.